Alrighty, guys. To kick off what I am calling the unofficial official relaunch of the movie season, which in effect is basically let's start gearing up for Thanksgiving and Christmas because that's when all the movies come out. Let's talk about the movie that I think is going to slowly ramp us back into gear for all of that, and that is Tron Ares. This is going to be a non-spoiler and then spoiler review for Tron Ares. So if you have not seen the movie, no worries. We're going to be talking about the film in no spoilers, no spoilery details, no plot reveals, nothing that you haven't seen in the trailers at least. So we'll talk a little bit about the cast and some of the things in the trailers, but otherwise no spoilers. And then I will clearly delineate when the spoiler section will start, and then we will talk about the movie in some spoilery detail at the end of the segment. Let's dive into it. Tron Ares. Tron Ares is the third film in the Tron franchise. It is an interesting franchise because it feels like they're just going to make a movie every 20 to 15 years, 15 to 20 years. I said that weirdly. For the first film came out in the 1980s. Second film, Tron Legacy, which I was old enough to see in theaters, and I have really fond memories of watching that movie, which we'll talk about in just a second. But Tron Legacy came out in, I would say 2009, the late 2000s, and then Tron Ares is coming out in the mid-2020s, 2025. So I mean, maybe they'll just maybe the next Tron movie might be in 2043, and that might just be what happens. But, I'm enjoying it, and I hesitate to say this is a spoiler because it was in the trailers, but let's just say I'm going to give a minor spoiler because it was in the trailers. But if you don't want to hear, skip ahead 20 seconds, 30 seconds. But this is probably the last Tron movie that they're going to make with Jeff Bridges in it, so it was nice to see him in there as well. Okay, spoiler alert, over. But yeah, this is the third Tron movie, and, I don't know if I've seen the original one. I might have very, very, very early on, a long time ago. But like I said, I have really fond memories of watching Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy, to me, unlocked this whole new visual language in my head, just kind of like how Avatar, those Avatar movies, especially Avatar: The Way of Water for me recently, and watching the trailer for Avatar: Fire and Ash, have really just created this new visual paradigm in my head of, oh, I didn't even know you could make movies that looked like that. Tron Legacy, to me, I love lightsabers, I love the Shire, I love Hogwarts, I love, just the way that those look and those feel, and I love the MCU, I love the Guardians of the Galaxy, I love all those things. But there's something about the world of the grid in Tron that really, it's up there for me, the way that it's dealing in Tron Legacy, at least, and Tron Ares as well. How in the first Tron, you have very rigid lines because you're dealing with kind of 8-bit style, left, right, center, the bikes going at right angles, right? And then Tron Legacy, you kind of take that up a notch and you have the grid and it's much more fluid. And I love the way that the light bikes have the light trailing behind them and the discs, I don't know what they're called, but the weapons that they use, I love those discs. It's just so cool to me. And so when Tron Ares was announced, I was like, yeah, let's see what we can do with the Tron movie. And the trailers got me really, really excited for the movie because it looked stunning. And the cast, I mean, say what you will about Jared Leto, he's made some interesting choices as an actor and in terms of the movies that he's picked, but he is a good actor. Greta Lee, coming off of Past Lives, as has her big Oscar, quote unquote, coming out party as an actress in terms of people recognizing her and her work, which I love. Past Lives, amazing movie. She's in the movie as well. Evan Peters. So the cast looked really good. The visuals looked really, really good. And it seemed like a timely story because, I mean, it's always a timely story when you're dealing with technology. And I'm sure that back in the late 2000s when, again, I wasn't old enough to kind of realize what exactly the movie was talking about, but I'm sure that there were some really timely themes about technology in there. But now as we enter this world of AI and ChatGPT and Copilot and what are all these things going to mean for us and whatnot, and agents and large language models, this seems like a very timely time. That's not eloquent. But, the right time to make a movie like this, especially with the lead character in the trailers, he says he's sort of searching for who he is and sort of realizing he's a digital program and trying to, see is there any humanity in him. And I think that's a really good thing. So those were all the things that I was thinking about entering the movie. I was excited and I had a good time. I really did. I mean, first of all, right? And I have to say this, I said this about Jurassic World Rebirth. There are some movies that just have a really, not a really low bar necessarily, but a much lower bar, just because the concept and the way that they're going to execute it has a pretty high floor. And so the bar is much lower for movies like those to entertain me. Jurassic World, and look, I'm not saying that I love every Jurassic Park or Jurassic World movie. Certainly not. I really didn't like Jurassic World Dominion, and I did not like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. It's not like you can just automatically make a movie that pleases me in those franchises, but you have movies about dinosaurs. and you're having an adventure with dinosaurs, yeah, I'm going to enjoy it most likely. Similarly, when you have a world that is so visually appealing to me in this way and just is so fun to look at, yeah, I mean, even if the movie itself is terrible, which I don't think it is, right? I don't think it's the most groundbreaking movie ever made, but I don't think it's terrible by any means. Then yeah, the bar for me to be entertained by this movie, much lower. I thought the visuals were captivating enough almost in themselves to make me really fall in love with this, the what I was seeing on the screen. Now, the story, right? Because again, the visuals with the light bikes and a basic premise, it's in the trailers. The basic premise is that the digital world, right? Because everything in the previous movies were sort of about people going into the digital world, into the grid. And now the concept is sort of being flipped, surprise, surprise, that the digital entities are coming into the real world. So that's really sort of the basic premise of this movie. And yeah, I mean, you see your usual light bikes and speeders and ships and things like that. It's a lot of the things that I really loved about Tron. Sometimes I found myself actually during the movie almost wanting more out of it. Honestly, I was like, yeah, but can we get a little bit more of the grid action? And then there are some scenes where you're just watching, you're like, wow, this is unbelievable that you're watching these, all these lights and neon, and it's just, what a concept, right? Just make everything neon, kind of make them lightsaber colors, white, blue, red, and just go from there. And it's like, yeah, that really works. So visuals did not disappoint. The story, though, I will say, I think the pacing of the story was interesting, and I think that as I was watching it, the beginning is pretty captivating. It's pretty interesting. It is one of those movies, though, where it's not like they're necessarily giving you, boatloads of exposition and you're getting sick of it, although there was a decent amount of exposition at the beginning, which, honestly, I appreciated because I haven't rewatched Tron Legacy in a long time and I haven't seen the original Tron, so I appreciated some of the exposition, but it felt like one of those things where the movie was trying to really tell you where everybody was and what each character was doing and whatnot, which kind of lends to the writing, which we'll talk about at the end. But the story, I was enjoying the story. I was enjoying the setup. I was like, okay, this is interesting. But then it kind of felt like, okay, now here comes an action scene. And the movie just kind of stalled in that first act. The second and third acts, which feel much more condensed, I think are enjoyable, though. I think are quite enjoyable. I just think that they're not as strong as the movie wanted them to be. I think that, there are parts of the story that sort of bleed into each other. And it feels a little rushed, I would say. And I think as you take a step back to the overall story, the concepts that are there are quite interesting, right? Like we talked about before about AI and digital entities and sort of humanity and artificial intelligence. Is there any? Could there be any? All that kind of stuff. Which, by the way, just to be clear, it's not new territory, even for movies. Terminator, maybe not in the exact same way, but Terminator, as a franchise has been dealing with this since the 80s, right? So this isn't completely new. I do feel like, though, that they rushed a little bit of it as they were going along, and they were kind of like, hey, let's throw in some action here just to kind of distract you from that. Again, not a terrible story, and nothing that I would cringe at, but I think that I was a little surprised, just given the weightiness of the concepts, how light the story felt at some points. And I think part of that too is that the writing is not that strong in this movie. I think that there are some scenes where the film kind of wants you to have those emotional moments and really think about things. And the writing just kind of feels a little stale. And this is one of those movies where when the characters are giving you exposition towards the beginning, it is one of those things of like, oh, you really must think about X person a lot, huh? Or, oh, this is where X person used to live. Or this is what X person was thinking, and you must be thinking the same thing. There's a lot of that going on. And it's just interesting because, this is kind of the indictment on big franchises of, oh, yeah, you enter a big franchise and the dialogue is terrible and you just kind of have to say stupid things and, act on green screens. And, I mean, it's, some movies are like that. But, again, I would point to many, many Marvel movies that are quite deep, right? Like Black Panther or Infinity War Endgame or things like that. And Lord of the Rings, right? Lord of the Rings is just beautifully written. I know based on a book, based on Tolkien's amazing writing, but still, right? So I think that the writing in this movie, it just kind of plays into that stereotype of big, dumb Hollywood action movie. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. I think that this movie is a really good time at the theaters. It's really fun to watch. I think the performances also in general. I liked Jared Leto. Honestly, I think that the performances that I dislike from Jared Leto are much fewer than I think they are, but they are just so weird and out there that it just it sticks out like a sore thumb, like Joker and Suicide Squad. It's like, what is going on there? But I thought he was good in Blade Runner, and I like him here. I think he's pretty decent. There was another movie he was in recently, too, that I watched that I don't remember what it is, but I was like, yeah, he was fine. He was good. Haven't seen Haunted Mansion yet, though. But anyways, I thought he was good. Greta Lee, she's not going to get nominated for an Oscar for Tron Ares, which is fine. Not every actor has to be nominated for every project they're doing, and if she enjoyed the process of making it, then that's great. She was good. Evan Peters as the sort of antagonist character. Honestly, maybe that's the one thing I'll wrap up this non-spoiler section with, is that the antagonists for this movie are kind of weak. Evan Peters represents one of them, or sort of one part of them, and it's just, I mean, his writing in general, it's like they didn't really know what they wanted to do, so they just kind of made him a one-dimensional villain. There are other antagonistic forces out there in the movie that we're not going to talk about here, and it was fine. Like, the ending sort of climactic moments were sort of undercut by the fact that you're not really invested in any of the things that were going on between the protagonists and the antagonists. It was more so the journey of the protagonists that was much more interesting than any of that. So, yeah, I think, that may be one other thing that I didn't like as much. But again, I mean, it's a fun movie, and I enjoyed it. And so if you're a fan of Tron, if you think that the visual language looks appealing to you, and you have the time and you have the means, go watch it. I think it's fun. And also, there's not going to be much else to watch for the next month. And again, I haven't seen, a lot of the Oscar movies, admittedly, but I'm waiting kind of to see what the consensus is to kind of figure out which movies I should prioritize. But anyways, yeah, this is probably the biggest movie coming out until November, until we kind of get our Wake Up Dead Mans and our Zootopias and Wicked. So yeah, this is a good time. And those are my thoughts. Those are my non-spoiler thoughts. We're going to dive into spoilers just briefly. I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about here, just a couple things, but this is the spoiler section. You have been warned. Honestly, so when I was talking about the villains, I think the whole Athena subplot of it all, or it wasn't even a subplot, it was just Athena and the other evil program characters, was kind of weak. I wasn't that invested in the characters when they were when they were fighting, against Evan Peters' character, Dillinger. Wasn't that interested in him, and he was just written to be such a ham-fisted villain that it was like, okay, yeah, kind of get it now. And so it made the ending fight a little bit anticlimactic with Ares and Athena, because I was like, I don't really care that much about these two characters interacting, that's not really what I'm here for. I like Jared Leto. I think that his character's exploration of discovery and whatnot, and him meeting Jeff Bridges, which I thought was a fun scene, though not entirely sure what was going on there. Again, maybe I just have to rewatch the older movies to kind of remember what's going on. But I like those scenes, I like the kind of ending where he's like, yeah, I'm just going to kind of go off and see what happens in the world. Who knows? Maybe Tron 4 will happen. But I liked him in the movie. I'm not a Jared Leto hater inherently. I just think he makes weird choices sometimes. But again, not a hater. So, yeah, I liked a lot of the things that were going on. I do wish that we spent a little more time in the grid. There are some really fun scenes in there. The escape scene with Eve and Ares was really fun, but I kind of miss, and this is just my own nostalgia talking, I miss those scenes with the light bikes and the grid and from Tron Legacy, and just going around and zipping through, and I like that movie was mostly in the grid as well. So but again, it's just my own nostalgia talking. But overall, I did have a good time with this movie. I don't know if there's going to be a Tron 4. This movie was not groundbreaking story-wise by any means. It was really, really, really good looking, though, in terms of visuals. So we'll see. We'll see if this movie makes money. We'll see if this movie is well received. I think it has about a 60% or 55% on Rotten Tomatoes. And yeah, that tracks for me. I think it's a movie that if you're just not into this franchise, if you're not into what's on screen, or if you just kind of don't jive with the story, then you're not going to like it. And that's totally okay. So guys, those are my thoughts on Tron Ares, non-spoiler and spoiler. If you have seen the movie, what did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down